to open so I can print out some shipping labels. So this would be the IPS morning deprogram for 5/7/2025. We're waiting on a few things. Some big nothing burgers this week. I think one's coming from James O'Keefe. Another one from someone claiming to be the twin sister of Shia LaBeouf. And then there's something that Trump's announcing on Friday that's supposed to be big. And when Trump says it's a big announcement, and all the Q people get up on the edge of their seats, and they think the deep state's about to get it, it's usually something like a meme, NFT, or something like that. Maybe he's going to introduce a new MAGA hat, like MAGA 2028 official with gold trim. I mean, he is the king of the nothing burger. We're talking about President Trump. And we were going over some videos last night, some deep fakes of the guy. I'm like, this guy is unhinged. But no, just people are manufacturing these Donald Trump appearances where he says the wildest things. And the deep fakery is so good that if you're not looking for community notes, you could be taken in by something. And I can too. As much as I pay attention, I fell for the whale-sized clownfish. Just caught me off guard. I'm never going to forget that. Lesson learned. We can all be tricked. A couple of other things. So that Hinton Jr. and the child, the 18-year-old rather, Hinton, that's the last name. It's another psyop. We got the Metcalf thing, Austin Metcalf. We got the Shiloh Hendricks thing. And now there's this cop killer who was killing in retaliation for his son being killed. And the way that it's being presented is very psyop-y, as I commented last night. And I watched some of the footage, and very, I would say, inflammatory and dramatic, unnecessarily, by design. And there's something else. There's this group out that's, I think there was a bunch of articles about a group called 764. 764, some neo-Nazi, they call it a nihilistic something, NVE, some nihilistic group. Like, you got the domestic violent extremists, now you got nihilistic violent extremists. The 764 group is like neo-Nazi online groomers. And, you know, it's exactly what the MAGAs claimed that the deep state Democrats are doing. Just the whole thing about satanic child trafficking. I kind of tune that stuff out. I tend to think it's just a repackaging of blood libel, just changing the bad guy in the story. It gets kind of old, but we'll see. I mean, how many are still waiting for the Epstein files? How many people are still in Dealey Plaza waiting for JFK Jr. to come back? So many failed prophecies. But the 764 group is likely going to be a topic tonight. I'm doing some digging into it. I find it to be it's just entirely unbelievable. It's like a group of online trolls using Discord to get people to do bad things. And this is one of the themes about the growing, buildup of resentment towards free speech. We've let it go too far. Now we've got online nihilists getting people to do bad things. It looks cartoonish to me. So we'll talk about the 764 group. I have to do a little bit more digging. I did a little more digging into the Met Gala as well, because most of the memes that I saw were like, oh, it's satanic. And it's like, I don't know what's so satanic about fashion shows. Or the color red. Like, it's a red dress, he's Satan. Like, that's a little overblown, but the real purpose of the Met Gala had to do with the fashion of black activists. There was some actress who was wearing like these lingerie panties with Rosa Parks's face, like Rosa Parks panties. Which I'm like, is that meant to be disrespectful or genuflecting? I mean, you're sitting on the person. So that's where they're at. It was about the activism of civil rights leadership and their fashion. So doesn't that kind of mirror what we've been talking about? How the psyop of the day, if you're reading the zeitgeist and what we're going through, the psyop-rich environment, it's all on the black and white, black versus white dialectics. And someone had pointed out that Kamala Harris was wearing a dress that was black-white, striped down the middle, black and white duality. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Because we were as we said last night, the movie Civil War has this Trump character in office, and they have to send in Kamala to take him out. But yes, everything that we're seeing right now is as we expected based on our analysis of the entertainment propaganda. Someone else found something about David Weiss being in a podcast with some guy named Tim Rothschild. And they're making a big deal about it. Tim Rothschild, the name, and then the guy's claiming that he went to some domain and he found a portal to join the Illuminati. And he had that scary TikTok music, so has to be true. What's up, Black Hand Side, Jungle Jim, Ollie Goering? Just going over a couple things. Let's see, there was something else. Yeah, I think the main thing right now is this cop killer and the response to it. And I'm looking at it as likely a psyop, by the way. I don't think it's real. By the way, if you say hello in the chat, I'll hand out your wrenches. So there is your moderator wrench, Black Hand Side. We'll be live open phones later. I'm still uploading a bunch of archives and catching up on a few things. All right, Suzette, here is your wrench. And I've concluded something recently. I've come up with this thing, I'll have to break it down with the graphic. But I've been analyzing the structure of the controlled opposition. And there is a template. There's a reason why it's so uniform across the board. And I've been studying a lot of the anti-geoengineering. So I'm no longer calling them chemtrail conspiracy theorists. They're actually anti-geoengineering. And when you frame it like that, it puts everything into the proper perspective. So anti-geoengineering is the same controlled opposition as anti-vax. And you might think these are two unrelated issues, anti-vax, anti-geoengineering. They're actually not. We're talking about the structure of PSYOP narratives. And the pro-vax and pro-climate change both proclaim that there is a ubiquitous global problem. One of them is pandemic. The other one is climate chaos. And this is the pro position, the mainstream position. So you get the vax to get rid of the pandemic, and you do geoengineering to get rid of the climate change. Then the anti-vax doesn't believe in the solution to the pandemic. Anti-geoengineering doesn't believe in the solution to climate change, which is geoengineering. It'll become clearer as I present the graphic, but what I'm describing here is that there's a fake issue, well, two fake issues, and the fake solution to the unnecessary, well, hypothetical problem is radically opposed by the other side. That's why I'm saying you have to reject the anti-positions. All of the anti-positions put you in a controlled dialectic. And there's a reason why anti-vax is anti-geoengineering. And it's all basically ruled by ignorance and fear. I've been studying this very closely. And the way they operate is by preying upon the ignorant and tapping into the ignorance and then supplying an unhealthy dose of fear. Extremely fallacious. I put out a book yesterday called The Chemtrail Hoax. And I've been giving this a lot of thought. And I think it's safe to say that if you're anti-geoengineering, you are controlled opposition if you have a big channel. And all the big channels operate the same way. They're obsessed with engagement, and they don't debate. They're probably instructed, do not debate. They're told to attack the person as a shill. Look, like climate change people. If you don't believe in climate change, and those guys are in the news because Stop Oil is still destroying oil paintings, but if you try to converse with them and say, hey, I don't believe Al Gore, they'll say, well, you're obviously being paid by big oil. I can't trust what you say. You're a sheep. Like, I'm not getting paid by big oil. That's my opinion. Well, the chemtrail people are the same. You can say, hey, I think you guys might be misidentifying clouds. And they will say, well, you're obviously on the payroll of Delta Airlines. And you're doing damage control, and you're a shill for the New World Order, and you need to repent because you're evil and you're making my kids sick. That's what one of them literally said to me yesterday. She said, you're an evil psychopath, you need to repent, and you're making my kids sick. Because I don't believe in chemtrails. That getting you to not believe is endangering the children. So is that somebody who has a grasp on the scientific realities, on the observational data? Are they engaged in rigorous research and maybe testing their model? No, it's a propaganda operation. So what's happening is they are targeting Trutherville. Let's look at the MSM box. This is the mainstream mediation where everybody lives, except us, off-world stage. Trutherville is a subset, MSM plus, where they can't explain what's happening as broadcast because it looks fake or something doesn't add up, so they add a bunch of stuff to it. And what I'm noting here is that since the mainstream believes in climate change, the anti-position is what we see as anti-geoengineering or chemtrail stuff. But anti-geoengineering is what it really is. Chemtrails is just part of it. So anti-geoengineering. You can ask a chemtrail pusher, are you anti-geoengineering? If their answer is yes, then they have been hit with targeted propaganda in the MSM plus box. And this is the controlled opposition to climate change. And it matters for a few reasons, because if you're in the box for one issue, you're in the box for all the issues. If you go MSM plus to explain something that you can't figure out because it doesn't make sense in the news, then you're lumped in with everybody else. If you're going to be a chemtrail phobe, anti-geoengineering, you might as well believe in Mandela effects. But this is a active measure, which is a Soviet term. We're talking about psychological operations. So truthers are what we call truthers, conspiracy theorists. They're really just mind war casualties. This is not a box of free thinkers. I always thought conspiracy theorists were free thinkers and they're sort of this like loose collective. No, they're victims of the mind war. No less than the people who think school shootings are real. No less than the people who think that nukes are real or who legitimately fear climate change. These are all victims of mind war, and I would argue that the Q people, the people in Alex Jonestown drinking that Kool-Aid, I would argue that they're all mind war casualties. They're under control. In fact, the mainstream box is mainstream mind control. If you're in a subset, you're in a deeper level. So that's where they are. However, to get to the off-world stage perspective, you actually have to go through that. The only people who can possibly reach the off-world stage perspective have already passed through MSM Plus. They've seen through it. You got to see through both. The other day I was talking about that security guard who said that he was certain that Trump's assassination attempt was fake, but then he couldn't explain the shooter's death or the fireman's death. So he's like, oh yeah, well, they must have just found a degenerate that they could have just killed, so they got a patsy, and he accidentally shot the fireman. Yeah, that is a guy trying to explain mainstream lies going into this area here, because the mainstream lies aren't adequate. So you add on additional conspiracy theory. That's the general tendency. But once you realize that you're off, that your entire premise is off because you're trusting the MSM, then you can go off stage. There's a path here. And the only people that are worth reaching out to are the mind war casualties in Trutherville. No one else is reachable. They're programmed to laugh at you, or they can't even comprehend it. And that's fine. I'm not here to wake the dreamers. But there are a number of people who they consider themselves awake because they're no longer dreaming, but they're having a nightmare. And whether you're having a nightmare or you're dreaming, you're still asleep. The only people who can truly claim to be awake, objective, and Psywar aware have taken the off-world stage perspective, and that would be us or the programmers at various levels. But everyone else is in the box, and truthers, again, they're mind war casualties. Pretty sad. Pretty sad that you can be made to fear cirrus clouds because of a meme. But that's the power of MK Ultra. Mind control. They're triggered. And now it's all making sense to me. So again, the main point I want to reiterate here, and we'll be live later to talk about other issues. The main point I want to reiterate is that chemtrail conspiracy theorist is a misnomer. They are anti-geoengineering. Make them own up to it. Because if they can understand the meaning of that label and what they've really been programmed to accept, they'll understand that they have been tricked for a very specific reason. It's no different than, like I said, they're just chemtrail Gretas. But there's an agenda behind it. And the agenda is keeping them in this subset of the mainstream, keeping them in the box, the nightmare. And it is scary, if you think about it. If you believe everything they say, yeah, I would not want to be so mind controlled that I'm confused about what I see when I look up, and I'm scared of it, and I think it's going to end the world. Like, that's garbage thinking. That's doomsday type. That's like a doomsday cult mentality. We're in the end times. We must overreact, and that's not something that we should look at as having some kind of a moral high ground. Like, the person that has the moral high ground in Trutherville is the shrillest, the angriest. Give me a break. I'm taking the opposite tack. If you're shrill and you can't control your emotions, you're the opposite of awake. You're having a nightmare. There's a reason why I'm so calm. There's a reason why I'm looking forward to Seattle possibly getting fake nuked in a couple of months. I am unperturbed by any of this. It's quiescence out here. You get out of the box, it's quiescence. What the Greeks call ataraxia. Anyway, we'll talk soon. Thanks for joining, and I'll be updating last night's archive here shortly, and I'll list out some of the new developments. Again, doing a deep dive into this 764 neo-Nazi nihilistic extremist group.